All right, we are back for another episode of Digital Divination. I have no idea what number it is this
What
time.
do you mean, no idea what we've been talking about this for forever. When I'm not around and you and Jason are on here, you guys are talking about how close you're gonna get.
Yes, so this is our 100th episode of Digital Divination.
Hooray!
Before we get going, Ron, you need to say
Oh, I
something.
do need to mention that I'm an employee of Wizards of the Coast, and my opinions are mine and not theirs. And with that standard disclaimer out of the way, 100. Now, I know, John, you've done a lot more investigation into what makes good podcasting and how
Well,
people
I
do that, what
obviously don't
success is.
know, so
Well, this is you know something. This has been going for 100.
yes,
And is
yes.
there? I mean, is 100 a big milestone? Is 200 a big? When do we celebrate? Like, kind of having a stamina that most other podcasts don't.
100 is a big milestone
Okay.
in general. Yeah, 100 is, and especially when you look at the fact that we record every other week, that's roughly 4 years, which we haven't missed an episode of as well.
Wow.
So that's
Wow.
pretty good. Before we go too much longer, I want to say that unfortunately Jason couldn't join us today, and we're hoping that we can get him in the next episode. And
Exactly. I miss him.
when
I
he's
like him. I mean, the three of us
yes.
together, I think we kind of have a good kind of jam. That's
Yeah, but it is kind of fun. I mean, this is back to where it started, just me and you.
exactly exactly. I was listening to some of where this started, and I was listening to one of the earlier episodes, and we mentioned at the beginning that we just bought our camper because it was
Oh
the height of
yeah,
the
wow,
pandemic, and we
yes,
wanted to be able to go out and vacation as a family and but not be interacting with people. Right? It wasn't. Nobody was going to Disney World or things like that at the in 2020. But we got a
Mhm.
camper to go camping, and we'd just gotten it before episode 8, I want to say. And
Wow,
I was like, "Oh, this is exciting! This will be kind of fun." And now look at man, we have used the heck out of that camper.
yeah, yeah,
It was as good a deal as we were hoping it would be, and as good for like our family as it would be. So, I mean, that was kind of neat to listen to to me being excited about getting it, and ooh, that was kind of fun.
yeah. I'm just trying to think, what else is going on 4 years ago. So my youngest was still in college in Calgary, so she
Okay.
has since graduated for undergraduate, got a master's, and now she's in her PhD. So a lot happens in
Wow.
working on a
Yeah.
PhD. Yeah, so working in 4 years. It's a lot that went on there. Um, I was also thinking back about some of our memorable episodes.
Okay.
What's been memorable for you? Do you have any offhand?
Well, I still feel a little awkward about the April Fool's episode,
Yes, yes,
where when I was and it's only become more awkward with time
yes,
passing and
yes.
events. It was the April Fool's episode where we had announced at Paizo that we were doing an abomination vaults in fifth edition D&D rules,
Right.
and that seemed at the time, as a Paizo employee, I'm like, oh, it's a really good money making opportunity, right? I was arranged for the development of that and having David and Ross do the conversion and work with some of the editors at Paizo who were more knowledgeable about Dungeons and Dragons. And that was going to be a great idea, but it took a lot of the world by surprise, thinking, oh, I guess Paizo is now given up and they're doing nothing but Dungeons and Dragons now. And so our April Fool's episode was playing with that and me confirming that yes, as of today being April Fool, as of today, I am telling you, Paizo is converting everything over to fifth edition, and it was just increasingly implausible the longer it went on. And the fact that you and I, John, were able to sort of play it
I know.
straight through increasing levels of implausibility about burning the entire warehouse,
Yeah.
stock down. And again, it's become increasingly awkward because not only did
Yes.
I leave Paizo to go to Wizards of the Coast, but shortly after I started at Wizards of the Coast was the OGL issue, which was
Right.
which Paizo saw as a real threat to what they were doing and made it super awkward for them to be doing a Dungeons and Dragons product. I think the last I have seen, they still have that product as forthcoming. I don't think they've canceled it. I don't know how much they've done with it since I left. It was not quite in it was not in publishable format when I left, but it was getting there. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do about that.
Yeah, no, that's the one that immediately came to mind for me as
Yeah.
well.
I
Yeah,
do have to say
so
here's a weird coincidence because
yeah.
we're playing Defy the Dragon kind of offline, and that involves a lot with mechs. And this one episode that I happened to listen back to, episode 8 or whatever, was when the playtest first came out with the nanosite and mechs in it.
Oh,
And so it was
yeah,
very
yeah.
interesting to me to have gone from, the world I'm in now, where I'm sort of, immersed in mechs because it's part of our game, to, oh, remember when this wasn't even a thing? It was just coming out in playtest form. That was kind of a
Mhm,
quite a
mhm.
callback.
Yeah, and I think other things, when, when you left the show, that was actually and Jason came back, that was kind of another big milestone. That was around episode 55-ish or something,
Yeah, I think I've
somewhere in
still
there.
got. I think I still think I'm second to you. He hasn't surpassed me in appearances yet. And Jason Tondro had a guest appearance as well when I
Yes,
couldn't
yep,
make it one time. That
yep,
was
we had Jason Tondro as well in there. Yeah, so it's kinda we've had some interesting things there. We did another April Fools. Do you remember the other one that we
the
did?
other. I that's no.
Oh, where we swap with with,
Oh, that's right, with Legend
uh,
Lore.
Legend Lore,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So, that
that
was
was
a lot
fun.
of fun. Yeah, when April came around and Jason and I were doing that, we were trying to think of something short and short notice. We didn't come up with anything yet. So next year, this
I mean,
coming
we'll
year,
see.
this April,
We'll
we'll have to
see.
come up with something on that.
Well, I think it actually happened. I mean, the one that I referred to earlier was, I think the release date was actually on April 1st that year. So
We
something like
released
it.
it we released it early to hit
Oh,
that.
in order to hit the April 1st.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and, Ryan was a little surprised, and then he saw it.
that's fun.
So,
That's fun.
yeah, so that was kinda neat. I'm thinking back to why we started this in the first place.
Well, it was, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, your idea was a
Mm.
show that I've never heard of called Car Talk,
Yes,
right?
yes.
That was the initial thing. It was like, it's
Yeah,
just a couple of guys get on and talk about cars. I'm like, well,
yeah,
I mean, I can see the comparison, even not
yeah,
having known that show.
yeah, yeah, and we only did audio, right, early on,
Right.
so the video has just been, within the last year and a half that been doing it. But yeah, that's what I kind of envisioned is that we would go and just talk about Starfinder stuff, and because we were playing a lot of Starfinder, oftentimes it revolved around what we were doing in game that week, or actual
Hmm.
plays, or our own home groups, and or what we had been writing on or had written on as well. So it just kind of revolved around those sorts of topics.
Oh, that's still, I mean, we still play an awful lot of Starfinder,
Yes,
right? That
we do.
that hasn't
Yeah.
really changed.
Mhm.
And I'm not writing any Starfinder, but you are, and or have been, and we're excited to kick off a whole other Starfinder campaign, perhaps in the very near future. So,
Yes, yes. I was looking into that. We were talking with our Intrepid Heroes group. They they don't have any VTT support for the Scoured Stars adventure path yet. Nothing.
oh, huh?
Yeah. Um,
Is it
Aaron
that there's
did.
no money there or something? I guess they're so aggressive about putting out the VTT support for Pathfinder,
Yes.
like Pathfinder APs and such.
Well, Aaron did say because people were posting about it on Facebook, right?
Okay.
Social media. We said, "Oh yeah." I asked, and he said no, and other people said, "Oh, we really wish there would be," and stuff like that. So he's going to pass it on to the team to see about getting that done. But who knows, right? It's because it's not going to be an in-house team that does it. They they
That's right.
they contract out to have somebody do it. I'm hoping they do because I want to run it. I'm going to run it online for our Intrepid Heroes group. I had planned on running it on Foundry, but it's for me, it's easier. I know how to put stuff into Roll20 really, really well. Foundry's I'm a little rusty on. I've only done it for one adventure path, so I'm still hoping to go there. But it's like I might have to just go to what's easiest for me. I don't know at this point.
Well, and my understanding is I've heard from several people that it's worth taking the initial
Yeah.
jump to learn how to do Foundry
Mhm.
because it's so valuable. I mean, it's
Yes.
there is I mean there is sort of a cost in sort of brain power. There's in fact a barrier of entry intellectually to switching over to something new. But I've heard so many people say Foundry is worth overcoming that barrier of entry because it's so good.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I've only played Foundry a couple of times, and as a player, I thought it was really kind of smooth and easy. And even when I was playing it, it was long enough ago that it wasn't even as smooth and easy as it is now. Apparently, I'm
Yeah.
hearing that it's gotten even better. So I'm sorry to hear that they're not supporting the Scoured
Me
Stars
too.
through then.
Yes. Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm hoping, I'm not willing to volunteer to do it for them. I might just do it for myself, at this point, but I'm also hoping if we talk about it enough, maybe somebody out there is doing it and, I can partner with them, to get
Well, and and that's possible
yeah,
too because
yeah,
I would have thought in sort of a I don't know, in maybe a too dismissive kind of way. I'm like,
yeah,
well, what incentive do they have to do one of the last two adventure paths before Starfinder Second Edition comes out? Right? It's why well, why would they spend the resources in order to do that instead of saving up to make Starfinder Second
yeah,
Edition Foundry modules way better?
yeah,
But it's not a strict dollars comparison with a lot of the people that do Foundry stuff. It's really, do they feel like doing it? Do they want to put the work in,
right,
because it's something that is maybe something that's passionate for them. When I
right,
was publishing on Pathfinder Infinite and Starfinder Infinite, I had people who would reach out to me and say, I would like to make a Foundry module for this.
mm,
And I think it could be pretty good. That was something that I didn't end up doing because the project that they were looking at, which is basically a whole bunch of like tons and tons and tons of monster stat blocks, would
right,
be pretty labor intensive and would cost way way more than I'd ever get back for it to do.
right,
Um, so I don't know. I'm not sure what it takes and what people who are really good at making these conversions.
mhm,
I mean, it's probably like you and Roll 20, right? It's so easy. You can, it's practically automatic. You can do it in your sleep. I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe for them it
yeah.
is, and they'd be interested. So,
Yeah, and I expect if I got a little bit more work in with, Foundry, it wouldn't be too challenging. I mean, there's just a couple things that I don't know how to do easily,
mhm.
on there, and I told other people, and they said, "Oh yeah, you just got to do this, that, and the other thing." So I'm sure there's an easy way to do it. I just haven't found it out. But getting back to kind of things that we've talked about VTTs, what we like. We've talked about different characters and classes and writing adventures, and we have covered a lot of ground, you and I, and quite frankly, when Jason came on board, he and I went over a lot of the same ground, but from his perspective and as well.
Well,
So we,
which is
yeah,
fascinating. Like as a
yeah,
viewer, right? Viewer slash listener. I guess viewer. When he came on, we were doing
yeah,
video even then.
right, right,
As a viewer, it's really fascinating for me to hear Jason talk about, for example, what the steps in development are when
hmm,
I would talk about the steps in development for
right,
myself, right? And they're not the same. And
yeah,
that's really interesting to me to hear how other people do a job that I did. And anyway,
yeah. No, I think that's been it's enlightening for me, and I'm sure other folks too have enjoyed, kind of seeing that. Um, What I'm kind of wondering though, and we talked about this a little bit offline, you, I, and Jason, what we're going to talk about here until Starfinder 2 comes out.
well, a lot
You
of the
know?
stuff we've been talking about
Yeah.
is what we're playing and what we're
Yes.
doing. I feel like there's going to be a lot that we could say about the experience of being Starfinder, sort of experienced Starfinder players who are looking at kicking off a new campaign. I think that even in these waning days of Starfinder First Edition, I mean, it's not really waning. There's years still.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Um, I think that might be something of interest to people.
hmm hmm Yeah. And the other thing I was thinking about is just there are still systems and kind of features that we haven't really delved in as much. we talked about mechs early on, but now that we've played through to Defy the Dragon, I think we have a much more uh, kind of focused opinion on mechs and how they work and
Mm.
what we might change or what we like about them. More recently, we used the narrative starship combat rules,
Right.
and so I think
For the
that's
first time, I hadn't even
yeah.
looked at them until right before
Mhm.
we used them in our game. So
So that's something that's kind of neat. And with Mechageddon coming out, I think there's going to be a lot of interest in mechs and things like that. So so I think there's some things there. Um, we haven't really touched much on the field tests, and the third field test is opening up now. So there'll be kind of a collective of those things that we could go through and talk about. So I do think
we
there's
could. I'd have
quite a
to.
bit.
I'd to be perfectly honest. I have not looked at any of the field test documents.
Yeah.
So I'd have to do some research for that. And part of the reason I've avoided it is because I remember when I started at Paizo when they were doing Pathfinder Second Edition, how deeply involved in the playtest rules I was, and how we were
Right.
doing the playtest at the big playtest adventure Doomsday Dawn. We were doing it in the office in different iterations before it even went to print, and then I was doing it playtest a short playtest campaign that I ran with some friends, and I was really, really immersed in all the playtest rules. And then the actual rules came out, and I was sort of floored by how it was just different enough to trip
Yeah.
me up a lot. And I remember observing at the time, it might have done my brain some good to have just ignored the playtest as much as possible, or certainly not buried myself in it as deeply, and just seen the finished product and been happy and successful with that. So I can't say that I'm going to be able to avoid the Starfinder playtest forever, but I haven't looked at the field test yet. Um, Trying to keep my my change log in my head as short as possible between what I know about the Starfinder Second Edition playtest and the actual Starfinder Second Edition rules.
I was actually kind of the same mind. I was thinking that I would get more involved when the actual play test came out rather than the field tests. Because
Hmm.
the field tests are, a couple classes, couple of species, and some new things. It's not a big overall comprehensive, kind of thing.
Okay.
So versus the play test, and I remember when the Pathfinder second edition play test came out, and it was such a heavy lift, even just creating characters, you
Oh yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah, and
Because a lot of
now
the
it's
systems to help you automate that just didn't exist yet.
exactly, exactly. And so I'm hopeful that Starfinder Second Edition is similar enough to Pathfinder Remastered, or Second Edition Legacy Remastered, that'll be an easy lift, and then that there'll actually be a little bit more resources available for folks, so it should go a little bit more quicker.
That feels like it's pretty likely, and I that's actually where I feel like that's where the danger lies is when it's close enough, but there's little things that you have to keep track of to and
Right.
from. Right, if we were deciding to jump in and learn something different. I don't know. I think I have the Savage Pathfinder, the
Yes.
Savage Worlds rules.
Yeah.
That's so different that you wouldn't have to really worry about. I mean, the thing you have to worry about is can I still be a Wizard Duke-ass magic missile? It's not.
Yeah.
Is it called magic missile? Is it called something else? Is it that
Yes.
anyway?
Yes.
And I want to remind you, even though I don't talk a lot about my day job at Wizards of the Coast much on this show, I'm in the middle of working with a rule set that is making a bunch of subtle differences to improve gameplay for our new books that are going to release this year. And that is already filling my brain up with, all right, well, what does the rules look like as they are now versus what do the rules look like as they
Wow.
are currently going to be, but still are in the process of tweaking and it's whew, too too close is the most dangerous maybe is the is the way that I feel about that.
Oh, that's interesting. That reminds me of, oh, shoot. When they're talking about, aliens, like, when something looks alien, it either,
Uncanny
it's
Valley.
yeah, the uncanny
Yeah,
valley.
the Uncanny
That's what
Valley.
kinda makes me so it's uncanny valley of rule changes, you know?
Yeah, it is. It is. You're like, but is this? And then a lot of things that are very similar, right? Is it a
Mhm.
a 5-foot step versus a guarded step versus a opportunity attack versus an attack of opportunity versus yeah.
Oh, your brain is gonna be all messed up.
Well, I don't know if I mentioned this. I don't know that I mentioned on the show. I'm actually playing in a Pathfinder First Edition campaign with some other
Yes.
friends who are playing Skull
Yeah.
and Shackles.
Yes.
And oh boy, being able to sort of immerse myself back in Pathfinder First Edition it's kind yeah, on one hand it's kind of a joy because I spent so much of my gaming time playing with that system and much of my freelance working with that system, and but yeah, it's got warts and all. We're sort of back at it. It's I remember something that Jason Bowman said when he was sort of people sort of confronted him about Pathfinder Second Edition, right? Oh, does this mean that you don't like Pathfinder First Edition or that you've improved on it or something like that? He's like, well, Pathfinder First Edition is a great game and we're very proud of it. Pathfinder Second Edition isn't that game. And I feel that way even as a player, right? I'm like, oh, I mean, there's a lot to like about this game. It's
Yeah.
it's not the other games that I play in a lot of ways, but uh,
Yeah, no, that'll be interesting, when those changes come out for Wizards of the Coast, and on top of that, when, we're doing Starfinder second edition playtest and everything, and
right.
that's gonna be a bunch of, craziness. Now, Starfinder, the second edition playtest, I think is gonna release at Gen Con this summer, is my
Okay.
guess. I mean, it's supposed to come out this summer. Gen Con would make sense, right? That's the kind of the big release
Yeah, it does. That's
event for
where I
that.
think I think Paizo's
Yeah,
got a big. They still make big announcement presences there.
yeah.
The yeah, the whole making announcements at conventions has something that's really shifted a lot for a lot of game companies because of
Mhm.
the pandemic that shut down convention attendance, and
Right.
people just out of kind of a business need realized, oh, I can't hinge my release cadence on events that maybe people aren't going to.
So I'm told that Gen Con is getting closer to pre-COVID attendance and
Well, see, I
what
may go this upcoming year, and if so,
well,
we
that's
can.
what I was thinking too, you know?
Awesome, awesome. So we'll see. I think that's
Yeah.
the last couple of conventions that I've been to. Well, the one I was just at OrcaCon here,
Yeah.
and just for a few hours, and just to say hello to people. Um, and it's always good to catch up with old friends and meet new people, and that's been kind of fun. Even in a couple of hours, I was able to sort of have a lot of really fun, good catch up conversations. Um, but I've been increasingly going to conventions, that my work is sending me to, right? Which is nice. And that wasn't the case
Right.
when I first started there because,
Mhm.
but conventions are kind of opening back up again. And what I don't know is if it means that companies will eventually move to returning to a convention announcement cadence for products.
Right.
Maybe that'll make sense in sort of a post COVID convention return to normal kind of structure.
Well, for Paizo, like PaizoCon used to be one of their big announcing
Hmm.
conventions, and that's gone wholly online. And I don't know if that carries the same. Well, they're doing kind of a modified in-person thing with
Right.
select
Right.
local game stores, but generally it's all online. I don't know if that would prohibit it from doing an announcement because they sell panels and things like that. And they did make an announcement last year when they
Mhm.
announced Starfinder Second Edition, so that could be the case. They don't have much of a presence at Origins anymore, and so
Right.
really Gen Con is the big thing,
It's the other
uh,
one. Yeah.
yeah, for in person, and that's kinda where I was going, that I think if it's going to be announced and released at Gen Con, the the Starfinder Second Edition playtest, then I am very interested in going there and being a part of it one way or
I
the
see.
other. Now, I might also go for another game company to help them out,
Okay.
somebody I'm running for, so who knows?
Having a big
Yeah,
Gen Con release,
yeah.
or you don't know,
Uh, there's I think there's stuff
or you
coming
can't
out.
say, right?
Yeah, but for sure, they want people to demo games and stuff like that, so I
Okay.
think if I raise my hand, I might get an opportunity with them as well, and so,
And that could be kind
we'll
of
see.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
I really
I
like
think so.
the demo opportunity for conventions is good. I had I remember Gen Con several years ago when I was was a very very deep into the Living Greyhawk campaign. I had an adventure that a 4-hour adventure that I ran I think 8 times, and
Yes.
by the by the sixth or seventh time, I didn't need to pull my copy of the adventure out of my
Yes.
bag. Right? I did.
Yes.
I just a whole 4-hour adventure. I know exactly. I knew the cadence of the read aloud text. I knew what was
Yeah.
in every room and how big every room was to draw on the map. I think I had to look. I think I had to pull it out finally at one point because I had to. It was very important at the table whether the DC of the trap was like 26 or 27, and so I had to check. But other than that, I didn't need to pull the adventure out of the
Yeah.
bag. So being part of kind of big releases like that, where lots of people are seeing the same thing anew lots of times, can be a ton of fun.
Yeah, I think it would be great, and it was just in November, I was cleared, to go to conventions again, and do a lot of things. Basically, my doctor said, "Probably you're gonna get because I'm immunocompromised, you're probably gonna catch a cold or get sick or whatever anyway at these conventions because there's con crud going around. As long as you're willing to put up with 2 weeks of recovery compared to maybe half a week to a week for a normal person, you're probably okay. It's not gonna kill you," kind of thing,
Um,
which is, it's just like you're just gonna be sick a little bit longer. And for me, a summer convention works out great because I'm off work anyway because I
right.
teach. So it's like,
But
oh,
I did one thing I didn't realize about OrcaCon, and I should have remembered it because it was the case last year.
oh
It is
yeah,
a fully masked required convention.
yes. I
So
didn't think to remind you about that. So
yeah, I actually had, I was not masked when I first got there, and I met some friends, and we were playing, pulled out a board game almost right
yeah,
away. And so there I am in one of the upper floor lobbies playing a game, and somebody came by and was like, "Excuse me, I see you're playing a game at this convention, and masks are required." So, oh,
yeah,
okay, pull one out, put it on. Um, the uh, but anyway, it does. But anyway, so if that makes you feel more comfortable about attending OrcaCon, know that they were in
yeah.
fact pretty aggressive about making sure that everybody was masked.
No, I think that was good. In fact, I had planned to go to OrcaCon until I came down with COVID over Christmas. And,
Uh,
I was gonna actually run a game. I was gonna run over my adventures the first day, and as soon as I got the positive diagnoses, I told the, organizer because they were gonna have to submit the games to the gaming schedule. I said, "Hey, you shouldn't submit mine because I don't know if I will be over it by then because my immune system is compromised. Things can tend to hang on longer."
mhm.
But sure enough, the day before I would have run, I tested negative. I was on Paxlovid, which is something that helps people with weaker immune systems get over this sort of thing. And so I reached out back to him and said, "Hey, I'm clear. I can run it." He said, "I had to take you off the schedule just in case." So I was going to drop by, but then I ended up. Both my daughters have birthdays this week, and so we ended up doing birthday stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
You know how it is, kids.
I can tell. Yeah, they have like events or whatever, or
Yes,
basketball
yes,
games or what have you,
yes.
which is what I was at all day. I will drop very quickly. My daughter's basketball game was against a team that is, frankly, just a lot tighter, a lot better. The last time they played them a month and a half ago, they lost 52-16, and I
Wow.
was I was telling my daughter, I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys are better. They're probably a little bit better, but you're better too. You work better as a team. If you do any better than 52-16, I'll call that a win. That's an improvement. And then they lost 53-16. So they actually one 1 point actually worse.
Worse.
Um,
Uh, well, Stephanie had messaged me about you guys have some games up in Stanwood coming up next month.
We do. The group that we're at, we're sort of the very far southern eastern end of the collar ring around Seattle, and
Mhm.
Stanwood is sort of the very farthest north end.
Right.
And we've
Yeah.
got a couple games with them way up in Stanwood. So yeah, she said she might reach out to you about making the whole drive a lot more convenient if we have a home base that's up there, maybe.
Yes. Well, we told her the 10th and 11th would work for
Oh, perfect.
sure.
Thank you.
The week before is Deb's birthday, and oftentimes we go up there with her sister who has the same birth date, and
Okay.
celebrate up there. So that one is kind of
Okay,
up in
she's
the
not a
air.
twin.
No, it's 2 years apart.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And apparently, how that works is when your mom goes to a nursing convention at the same time of year every year, and the husband visits during that, apparently something can happen. I
When
don't
you're
know.
away from the kids, and yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So, yeah, but they're the same birthday 2 years apart. Um, this is kind of fun because this is something Jason and I don't talk a lot about of non-stuff, non-gaming stuff like this.
Well,
Family
that's what,
stuff.
and I wonder
Yeah.
whether or not our listeners at
Yeah.
this point are like, can we get a
Yeah.
couple of Starfighter tidbits, maybe,
Yeah.
or industry
Yeah.
tidbits, or advice for games?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. But this is fun. This is one of the things I really enjoy
It is. It
doing.
is.
Well, getting
What's the,
back to
what's the
Starfinder stuff.
Yes. Well, let me ask. What's the next big like? Once you've made 100 on a podcast, are we going to get excited about 200? Do you have to go from 100 to 1,000 before you can get excited again? How does?
No, I think 200. I think 200 is
Okay. All
fine.
right.
I mean, for our Intrepid Heroes, we're at 123. 123 is the one I
That's
just put
so
up.
much. That's a lot of
Yeah.
gaming. When I think
Yeah.
back, I'm sure that I've had lots of other campaigns that have gone on that long. I know I have ones that have had that many or more sessions, but having it so easily sort of archived where I can go back and
Yeah.
listen and like, oh, I remember that. It's just such a treasure. I know that Mark will go back and listen to some of
Yeah.
the old ones that they come out. He's mentioned that, how fun that is. So,
Well, that's
uh,
what's really great about when I edit them because, like, these are ones, we played like 6 or 7 months ago. So,
right.
probably even more. I don't know. It was before June. So, I actually probably from April when
Wow.
we finished up.
Wow.
And so it's kind of fun hearing all the stuff that we did. And so in this particular episode, we just leveled up. I think we just hit level 19.
Okay.
Yes, we did because this comes out tomorrow oh, this came out already because this
That's
episode
right.
comes out
That's right.
Thursday. That comes out on Monday. So there's a line in there, and actually my character says, I really wanted to see Kaholo do her Solarian burst, right? Because I want to see what 20d6 of damage looks like. So that's a level 19 Solarian.
Whew.
So yeah, no, it is it's kind of fun playing that and be able to go back and listen to it. And then now we get to talk to somebody who played it with me.
Right. Right.
It's kind of fun. So
Well, I think that that's one of the consistent questions that people have. Like, what do I do about high level play? Why don't I ever get to see high level play? Why aren't there more examples of high level play? So, us being able to not just play it, but like be an example of high level play in that kind of real life way that Intrepid Heroes is, where we screw up the rules and just kind of have to roll with it, just like any old table does.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I do cringe a little bit when I hear myself say something that might not be right that I know now. So, or that we're doing something a little off. But we're pretty good. We're pretty good at it,
know
overall.
our stuff. Lots of practice.
But what I was thinking for us, and for the next 100 episodes, what are we going to be talking about? So we'll be wrapping up some of Starfinder, the last of it here, so Scoured Stars, Adventure Path, Mechageddon, no more hardcovers coming out, in terms of
Right.
rules.
That's it. Didn't they say that formally that there's not going to be any
Yeah.
more hardcovers other than those two?
Yeah.
And you can understand that from a business perspective, separately from the Foundry decision, which in some cases is
Yes.
a labor of love for people. Paizo has to be very careful about the business realities of having announced a brand new edition while they still have other product to go.
Right.
Do you know if they're going to continue? No more hardcovers, but are they going to continue their current pace of Starfinder Society right up until?
Well, they slowed that down this past year.
Okay.
So it had been, we were getting, so it started off, we were getting like one a month, and then they doubled up to two a month.
Hmm.
And now they've gone back to, I think it's, for a while it was one a month, two a month, one a month, two a month. I think it's down to one a month now.
Okay.
And I think that's where it's, I don't
Yeah.
Um, I don't. It's above my pay grade, obviously. Uh, thanks. Um, but I get the sense that this time frame now, they're the developers are well into season 7, which will be the
Mhm.
last season of Starfinder First Edition.
Mhm.
Uh, so and pretty soon they will be gearing up for the first season of Starfinder Second Edition, uh, organized play, because just as as soon as they kicked off Starfinder for release, organized play followed pretty quickly afterwards. I think they want to
Right.
do that hand in hand as well.
Yep. Yeah, that's how you reach a lot of people initially when you've got a new rule system is let's get an organized play adventures out that are going to get people actually playing it and testing it. I know that worked really well for third edition D&D. I was sort
Hmm.
of at the Gen Con where it was just a whole bunch of organized play for that. Um, and I've seen it with other start. I wrote one of the very early
Yes.
Pathfinder Second Edition.
Hmm.
One of the very early Starfinder. I mean, I've kind of been at the forefront of a lot of these now that I
Yeah.
think about it. Huh.
Well, I'm hoping that I can get in early on Starfinder Second Edition. That's
Sweet. Sweet.
I've already made that known and been told certain things. So we'll see. Um, Nothing I can talk about now. So,
Okay.
but yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about that. And quite frankly, I like Starfinder as it is as well. And it's not so much because the system is infallible or whatever, but it's like I like our group that play. We
Hmm.
kinda know the system, we kind of enjoy playing it, and even now with our upcoming actual play, we'll start at, first level, everybody's talking about, which type of uplifted bear they're gonna
That's
play.
right. What class our uplifted bears will all take?
Or,
Um,
different classes and species they haven't played, and so
yeah.
that's there's a lot of things you can do, even if you've been playing as long as we have,
Mhm.
that you've never done before in Starfinder.
Yeah, I think part of the reason I'm looking at an evolutionist, and don't hold me to that, is because we did an episode where we talked about it, and I'm like, huh, I
Yes,
wasn't particularly interested in this at all when it was announced, but because I had to look it over in order to talk about it with you,
yes,
I, gosh, there's a lot of potential there. I got really interested in it because I kind of had to. It was homework, and then I
yes.
got really interested. So, but finally, I'll be able to play an evolutionist. I think maybe so.
Yeah, and that'll be something that we can talk about a little bit more here as well. And
True.
there's a lot of stuff that came out with Starfinder Enhanced. I was going to play a society game today, and I realized I had not leveled up my character. I did it's just DM credits. I hadn't leveled it up for like 6 levels, and
Oh
so
my
I'm
goodness.
sitting. Well, it was supposed to be a 9 to 12, and all my high level characters had leveled out. I have like 5 level
Okay.
13s. I said, oh
Okay.
shoot, I got to level up one of these things up to 9 or 10 that I haven't done anything with. And so I'm looking at, and there's like so many options now from
Oh yeah.
compared to back in the day. And like with Starfinder Enhance allowing you to do stuff for character options and feats and all kinds of stuff. So there's a whole bunch of stuff we can talk about
Oh
that I
yeah,
think.
and I was really surprised with Starfinder Enhanced. I expected kind of the rebuilt envoys and Solarians
Yes,
and Witch Warpers stuff. I didn't. I really didn't expect so much other stuff for the other classes, and there's a ton in there.
yes,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I was excited. I got to work on for the class.
neat,
Things. And
neat.
and something that was really cool, I don't know if I mentioned this to you. I went through Starfinder Enhanced with a fine-tooth comb, and virtually everything I wrote got in, not no major changes. I had a couple things that were cut out for space reasons, right? They didn't add something else in
Hmm.
like that. And so I felt really good because that was probably one of my biggest freelance projects I had. I wrote like some 20,000 words in that
Wow.
book, and most of them kind of went in as I did. A couple of name changes and things, and but
Right.
but yeah, I was excited by that. And so now I want to play a bunch of that.
Like now I've done it. Who'd I do it
Yeah,
for? For
yeah.
me.
Well, when I'm doing character options, that's what I think. Man, what would I love to see in a game? Forever. And I mentioned this, I think, in another episode. Um, Force effect ways that characters can get force effects. That was something I was really big on for a while because of our experience on the with the Dead Sons campaign.
Oh,
That
in the
darn
Blind City
ghost.
with the oh wait,
Oh,
yeah, I remember that. Oh,
oh man, we couldn't do anything. We're like first level, whatever, and it's like, oh,
yeah.
so so now I try to figure it out for everybody.
Well, that kind of occasional weakness is important. I'm running
Yeah,
a Strength of Thousands campaign, and one of
yeah,
the characters they can went up against a ghost of some kind. I
yeah,
mean, it's an incorporeal creature. It's immune to precision damage, and our swashbuckler just kind of threw up her hands, and she's like, "Oh, I got nothing." Then
yes.
precision damage is kind of all I do for everything.
Well, and that is the downside early on, especially because you're very specialized.
Yeah.
And it isn't until you've kind of gained some levels and you realize, oh, I need to have ability to affect this or do this or do this. In fact, like the game I was supposed to play today, it was like a whole bunch of damage dealers, and I thought, oh, I should bring something that has skills. So I was bringing an operative because that Solarian soldier and Vanguard, they're not going to be doing much other than beating on things.
They're
So,
gonna be hitting stuff. That's what they do.
yeah, so but
Right.
anyway, so I'm excited for the next 100 episodes. We'll see if we get that far,
Well,
without a
then we've
break.
had
But
see now we've had an whole arc, John, because
yeah,
earlier in this very episode you were like, I don't know what we're going to talk about, what we're
yeah,
going to be able to do, and now it sounds like you're filled with ideas and excited
yes,
about what we're going to
yes.
be able to do. So great, that's a come along for a narrative arc like that, everybody.
Well, one of the things I'll say is that oftentimes this is just on air brainstorming that we're doing. So it's
That's right. That's right. A lot of it.
well. Thanks so much, Ron, for joining us again. Um, I think officially when we get Jason back, we're going to have to re-record our intro.
Okay. Oh, because it's a you and Jason intro.
Yes, and you're kind
I
of with
seem
us
like
now.
a hanger on,
Yeah,
like a groupie, that climbed up on stage in order to try to play with the band. That's
yeah. So I quit saying special guest when I post the podcast for this. You're no longer a special guest. You're one of our regulars
okay.
now. But I think we need
I feel
to.
less special. I still feel very
Yeah.
special. So
But I think we need to. As soon as we can get Jason back, what we need to record our new intro for all of us.
we can do
That'll
that.
be
We
the
can do that.
second 100 that we're working on.
Alrighty. And I'll keep hanging on. At least, if you and I want to keep doing this until Jason comes back, that's great
Oh
too.
yeah,
So
we will.
perfect, perfect.
Well, I'm John.
And I'm Ron, and this is Digital Divination.